And so the next thing that a lot of the sort of Qigong world likes to talk about, they try to talk about the three dantians, right? The three centers of energy. And they are poetically called the upper, middle, and lower dantian. Okay? And really, traditionally where you would start is you would energize the lower dantian first. Lower dantian, if you're looking for a location, if we wanted to get really specific, you'd say roughly 1.5 inches below the navel to about 2/3 of the way into the spine. And when somebody says, well, what is the lower dantian? What is it? Is it a thing? The ancient understanding is that the very first cell that was you, when sperm and egg came together and formed a zygote, the single cell, they say that cell is still alive and it's right there. And they say that that cell is the template for all the other trillions of cells in your body. So if you energize that cell, all the new cells that get generated are on a more energized state or a more powerful state. This is why the lower dantian becomes so important in the systems of Qigong. And so typically, people say 100 days of practice to remake the body was what the classic. You're going to come. There are all sorts of interesting numbers, very specific. And the reason, right? Actually, physiologically, every 3 months your body remakes itself. So the cells that you have in your body now are not the same cells that you had 3 months ago. And so every cell in your body has been exchanged. It's been remade. And so how the Taoists knew this, I don't know. But they did know it. And so they said 100 days of good practice to transform the body. And so this is why initially they talk a lot about being able to sink and store the energy. If the energy is condensed here, this becomes like a battery. And it begins to sort of fill with that life force. As it condenses, your whole body begins to change. Bones will condense, right? If anybody has concerns about, say, osteoporosis or something like that, sinking the qi down here, it begins to condense in the marrow. There is what we call bone marrow breathing, which we can talk about, but it won't count until the energy is sunk into the lower dantian. So there's a lot published, right? There's a lot of people say, like, you can learn bone marrow breathing in a weekend. You hear that a lot. You can learn how to do that, but it won't mean anything until the energy's here. You say, yeah, I went to the seminar. The guy had hard bones. He broke bricks. I can't do that. And there's a reason he didn't tell you about this. It takes time. You can't generally do that in a weekend. Thank God. Can you imagine if everybody could do that? It's like giving a gun to a 2-year-old. You don't want everybody to be able to do that, right? So you condense the qi into the lower dantian. That becomes important. The next center of energy is really at about the heart space. Okay, so in the yogic traditions, it would be the heart chakra. In the acupuncture terminology, it would be conception vessel 17. So if this is about quantity, if the lower dantian is about how much energy do you have, this middle dantian says, where do you get it from? Wherever you give, they say wherever your heart is engaged, this is where you get your energy. So we want to, be mindful of where we place our hearts, right? What do you love? What do you care about? What opens your heart? Right? And we see these are the vibrations of energy that come into the body. It also happens to be, right, this center, right, is a point that we use for asthma a lot, too, right? Helps to open the lungs. How do you obtain energy? You breathe it in, right? And you extract the energy through the air. And so this opens it up. This helps you. So this holds the qi. This takes the energy in. And this talks about its quality or its vibration. What do I think about If I walk around all day, just thought of something. On my father's side of the family, I'm half Irish. He used to have this expression. He called it Irish amnesia. And Irish amnesia is that you forget everything except every rotten thing that everybody ever did to you. That's what he used to say. If I walk around like this, I'm angry, I'm resentful, this should have happened, that should have happened, right? I'm generating nervous impulse every time I do that. That's an energy. This is going to tell this what to take in, and that's what I'm going to store. That's not a great vibration, right? So I used to think about this because I don't know about you, but I'm not always positive. You know, does that ever happen to you? Okay, it's not just me, right? Okay, so I used to worry about that. I'm thinking, like, what am I doing to myself? You know, like I just had a negative, you know, I could, especially when I drive, I'm like, look at that idiot, oh no, you know, what did I just do, right? I start to worry about this, right? Now I start to worry about worrying, you know, because worrying is bad for you. I happen to be a great hypochondriac, right? It's like, oh no, it's like, now what am I doing to myself? That can't be good, right? And so as I'm getting really paranoid about this stuff and getting myself worked up, I go and I talk to Dr. Young. I'm like, what, you know, you wouldn't believe, like my whole ride here, I probably just developed like 8 diseases since I got here, you know? Yeah, you know, and he's like, oh, and he said, well, he said, then you better have a positive thought. And I said, well, you know, what kind of damage am I doing to myself? Now, I love how specific he would get. He would say, you don't really need to worry because one positive vibration is 17 times stronger than one negative vibration. I love that. Not 15 or 18, 17 times stronger. I don't know how he knew that. But actually, it's true. For every, and so he says, this is how you know that the divine is kind. This is what he used to say. He's like, this is how you know. And I would say, how, you know, what do you, you know, I used to like that, you know, I used to try to pin all my Chinese teachers down on like the nature of God, or the nature of divine. Try doing that sometime, you know. It's like, we don't define it. It's rude. That's what they would say. It's rude. You can't define the indefinable. It's not possible. It's greater than that. And if I start defining it, then I'm being rude. So you don't say that. It's like, so what's its nature? What do you feel? It's like, well, I felt good. I felt. He's like, well, that's part of its nature. That's enough. You know, that's all you never get. Stop talking. The nervous system, right? So the brain. Here's something interesting about the brain. There's a lot interesting about the brain, right? But something interesting about the brain is, of all the organs in your body, the brain is the only organ that doesn't store energy. Your liver will, your kidneys will, your lungs will, they'll all hold the charge. Your brain and your nervous system won't hold the charge. It will only conduct it and consume it. It's a delivery system. The brain will conduct through whatever it is that you have. And so there are 2 fundamental rules of energy, and then we're going to take a break. Okay? The first rule, maybe I'll write it down actually at the break, but the first rule, if you want to take it down and then I'll write it down, is attention energizes. Whatever you give your attention to, you will bring energy to. Okay? If I think, I mean, it is true, you can think happy thoughts about your liver and your liver can get better. There's a more efficient way to do it, but that's pretty good too. That works.
What did you say? There's 2 rules.
Two fundamental rules of energy cultivation.
Okay.
Yep. The first one is attention energizes. We want to be mindful where we place our attention. The second one is intention organizes. If you want to organize that energy into something, you start intending.